Anyone here ever set a goal to be average at anything? I didn't think so. I didn't think so. I heard when I first started speaking that the average person speaks at about 125 to 150 words a minute. And I decided I didn't want to be average at anything, so I speak at 400 words a minute with occasional gusts up to 600. So stay with me, all right? Good. But you know, why be average when you can be awesome or amazing or remarkable or sensational or phenomenal? Why? No one sets a goal to be average, but you know what? I find very few people set goals to be awesome, amazing, and all those other things, remarkable, sensational. And there's just a slight edge difference between awesome and amazing. Between average and amazing, or average and awesome. Let me demonstrate that, okay? I'm going to ask you to do something, so put your pens down. Stand up and raise your hands as high as you can. Okay, everybody please. Okay, now raise them a little higher. Okay, what happened? Okay, you can sit down now, thank you. What happened? You were able to do it a little higher. Okay, I said raise them as high as you could, and then we can always go a little bit higher. And what I want to talk about today, and what I want to share with you, is the difference between average and awesome. It's just a little bit. It's just doing some things right. Joyce and I were married on March 18th, 1967. And we wanted to have children. We wanted to start a family, but things just weren't working out. But fortunately, 11 years later, Lindsay Rebecca Houze came along, and she was, all children are special. I happen to think firstborns are special. Because we waited so long, she was extra special. Now, I'd always played sports. I was real involved in athletics, and I'm hoping that my little daughter here would take an interest in sports, but she didn't show much prowess. She didn't show much athletic ability. And I was a little concerned about that, but I thought, well, I love her anyway. Then, when she was 9 years old, she heard the boys out in the driveway shooting baskets, playing basketball. And she said to me, Dad, can we go shoot some hoops with the boys? Yes, all right, now we're talking, So we went out there, now me being as competitive as I am, I'm having a good time and shooting the ball and throwing it and blocking the boys' shots and what have you. Didn't notice that the love of my life, this little girl, wasn't having a good time. And after the boys left to go do something else, Lindsay's standing in the driveway like this, chin at her chest, shoulders slumped, just the posture of saying, this is not a good thing. And she said to me, Dad, I ain't very good, am I? Like to tear up my heart. I said, sure you are, Lindsay, let's shoot some more. So I picked up the ball and I threw it to her. And she shot some, and she shot some, and she shot some. She finally made a shot. And I said, that's one. And she kind of looked at me. I said, keep shooting. She shot some more, made two. I said, that's two. She got up to 8 or 9. This whole thing took about 10 minutes. And when she was finished, she stood there with her feet apart, chest out, shoulders back, chin up, and said, I'm pretty good, ain't I, Dad? Okay? What a difference 10 minutes can make. That was 10 minutes in the driveway. 10 minutes in the driveway. And she went from, I ain't very good, am I, Dad, to I'm pretty good, ain't I, Dad? Jim Leland, when he was a young manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates baseball team, said he knew it was going to be a long, tough season when at the first game he was standing beside his star player and they were playing the national anthem. And his star player said, every time I hear this song, I have a bad game. Not a good time, okay? Let's look at the flip side of that. A young boy, a young man, I should say, in his early 20s, was in a big city, downtown courthouse, on the witness stand, being grilled by a big city attorney. And he said to the young man, young man, he said, can you explain to me how just a few weeks ago at the scene of the accident, you told the officer on duty that you never felt better a day in your life, and here you are just a few days later suing my client for personal damages. How can you explain that? He said, well, sir, it's easy. He said, I was on my horse-drawn cart with a pig in the back, minding my own business, going down the street, and when I went around the curve on my side of the street, your client came around in his automobile too fast, hit my horse a glancing blow, tipped the wagon over, knocked the horse dazed into the street, knocked the pig dazed into the street, and when the officer in question showed up at the scene, He saw my horse staggering around, dazed but not dead, took out his gun, shot and killed my horse. Then he saw my pig laying in the street, dazed, not dead, shot and killed my pig. Then he walked up to me and said, "Young man, how do you feel?" And that's when I told him, I never felt better a day in my life. Okay? Now, hopefully someone doesn't have to have a gun drawn for you to say, I never felt better a day in my life. Because the way we feel is an attitude. Okay? Being awesome is an attitude. Being sensational is an attitude. Being phenomenal is an attitude. Being incredible is an attitude. It's how we look at ourselves. I ain't very good, am I? I'm pretty good, ain't I? Okay? So there we go. It's the way we talk. Guard the way you talk to yourself. How many of you learned to drive a car on a stick shift? Almost everybody? Do you remember just getting in that thing at age 15 and a half or 16, whatever, however old you were, putting it into gear, letting out the clutch, pushing on the gas, and just taking off nice and smooth? You don't remember that at all? Well, neither do I, okay? I grew up, as Dick said, I grew up here in Talmadge, Ohio. We have some rolling hills. We're going down Newton Street with my father here. I'm in the car. Well, first I took off out of the driveway like this. Okay? And then I got into second gear, and a little less, third gear, a little less, and I'm going along, just one of these numbers right here. I get up, going down Newton Street, went up this hill, light at the top of the hill turns red just as I get there. I put the brake on, like a good new driver does, and forgot to do what? Push in the clutch, okay, and the car stalled, and there I am, Newton Street Hill, Goodyear Boulevard, thinking, what am I going to do next, okay? How am I going to get out of this thing? Because there's a pretty steep incline there. Then I look at my rearview mirror, I see a car coming up behind me. I'm thinking, oh no. Okay, so I rolled down the window, didn't have power windows back then, okay? Said, come on around, this may take a while, okay? But you know what? I survived that incident, and within a couple of weeks, I'm driving down there and just shifting it like this, and what happened? I turned it into a habit. Well, I was telling a story one time about this negative experience that I had, and talking about the trauma that I had when this other car pulled up behind me, and they said, well, that was good news. I said, what do you mean, good news? You weren't there. He said, yeah, but now you had something to push off of. Geez, I didn't think of that. Okay, but see, that's what happened. We learn things, we turn it into a habit, it becomes automatic and reflexive. We don't even have to stop and think about it. We probably do dozens of things, if not hundreds of things, every day without stopping to think about it because we turn it to a habit. So a habit is automatic and reflexive, and it helps us get things done. So let me offer this definition of a good habit. A good habit is one that helps us reach a goal. Okay? A good habit is one that helps us reach a goal. A bad habit is one that gets in the way of reaching a goal. If we want to live a long life, not wearing seat belts and driving recklessly is probably a bad habit. And I'm not going to preach about other bad habits, but it's in direct proportion to your goals. All right, so that's what we're talking about. What I want to talk about here is how we talk to ourselves affect, and then how other people encourage and coach us affect us. Charlie Tremendous Jones without even knowing it. And I want to tell you that I waited 35 years to thank Charlie Tremendous Jones, but last year, and I'm glad I did, last year I sent him a thank you note, and I sent him a copy of my little booklet about this story I just told on what a difference 10 minutes can make, and told him that he'd made a difference in my life. And I hope he had a chance to read it, and I hope he knows I meant it. Now, Lindsay went on, well, let me say it this way. She came home from school, I think late in October of that same year, and said, Dad, can I play fourth grade girls basketball? I said, of course you can. And she said, well, you and Mom have to come to the meeting. I said, okay, no problem. I show up at the meeting, and they announce, they say, we have a fifth grade girls coach and a sixth grade girls coach, but we can't have a fourth grade girls team until we get a coach. And I'm looking around for somebody to volunteer, and no one was volunteering. And I finally said, well, I'll help out here. And another great decision. Coaching those little fourth grade girls became a fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, ninth grade. It was a tremendous experience. And something I did at the very first practice, the very first team meeting, is what I want to talk to you about today, because these same things apply to any area of our life, and it applies to business. And I called the girls together and said, we only have 4 rules for playing basketball this year. Number 1, we want to have fun. Okay? We want to have fun. We want to have a good time. Everybody want to do that? And these little girls are ponytails bobbing, and yep, they want to have a good time. How about you? You want to have fun? Isn't that part of what we're talking about here? I was doing a talk in Australia. Where are my Aussie friends? I was doing a talk in Australia on enthusiasm sells, and I got interrupted right away. And one of the Aussies said, "You're pronouncing that word wrong, Rex." And I said, "What word is that?" And he said, "Enthusiasm." Am I right? Okay, so that's you got to have some enthusiasm. You got to have some fun. You got to have a passion for what you're doing. So that applies to little girls basketball. That applies to us in the business world. Okay? The second thing I told the girls is that you need to learn and improve. You need to learn and improve. Now, in this case, those little girls had a lot to learn. Some of them couldn't dribble the ball twice without it rolling off the court. A lot of them couldn't make a layup. They had trouble passing the ball. So they had a lot to learn. They had a lot of improvement to do. But you know what? That applies to us every day in every area of life. We need to learn and improve. We've already talked about the fact that we need to read, listen, associate with positive people. That's part of learning. But we also need to purposely set out to improve a little bit every day. Now, as was said in my introduction, I've been married for 41 years. We dated for 3 years, so we've known each other for 44 years. If I were to improve by 0.003 every day, do you think even Joyce, who knows me better than anybody else in the world, could notice that much improvement? I doubt it. But if I did that 365 days, day in and day out, how much better would I be? Do the math real quick. 365 times 0.003 is a whole unit of 1. I'm already a whole unit of 1, so I am twice as good a year from now by just getting this much better every day. It's the slight edge, okay? Now, at age 36, I took up tennis. And I decided I wanted to be a championship-level tennis player. And I recognized that most of the people I'd be competing against had been playing since they were 3, 4, 5 years old. And it would be a tough grind. So I took lessons, this, that, and everything. And we taught goal setting. In the business I was in, we taught goal setting. And it dawned on me one day that my tennis game wasn't improving too much and that I needed to develop a plan of action. So I got a binder, a 3-ring binder, took the tennis magazine off the front of the tennis magazine, took the word tennis, taped it to this binder, put some tabs in it, and organized a plan of action, a goals program for being a championship-level tennis player. And I had all sorts of stuff in there. My tennis game took off like a rocket. And I started beating people that before had been beating me 6-0, 6-0. Are you familiar with tennis scoring? That's not very good. Okay. And one day I was walking through the club, and I had my tennis plan of action with me, and Chuck Gollahar, who had beaten me like a drum a year or so before, and now I was consistently beating him, said, "What do you got there?" I said, "That's my tennis plan of action." And he said, "Tennis plan of action?" He said, "Let me look at that." Now, I want to tell you this. Chuck was 15 years younger than me, had been playing tennis since he was 3 or 4 years old, was way more athletic, taller, stronger, faster, everything, but I could consistently beat him because I had a plan of action. He thumbed through that plan of action. He looked at the plan of action. He looked at me and he said, "That's no fair." Okay? So I'm encouraging you to set a goal and have a plan of action to improve on a daily basis. Okay, and then the last thing that I talked about was to do your best. And I didn't talk to them about being the best, because now they're competing with somebody else, but to be their best, the best they could be. And they agreed that they would do that. Now, is being your best an attitude or a skill? It's an attitude, absolutely. Skill says I have the capability to do it. Attitude is whether you will or whether you won't. Now, I know you talk a lot about attitude, you know a lot about attitude, so I might be preaching to the choir, but let me define attitude as I understand it. Attitude, first let me ask you this. Is attitude good or bad? Yes. That's right. We can have a good attitude, bad attitude. Okay. But, all right, so an attitude is a habit of thought. Have you heard that before? That an attitude is a habit of thought. It's the habitual way that we think determines our attitude. Now let me ask you this. I got ahead of myself there. What do we know about habits? Are they good or bad? Yeah. They can be both, right? Do we as human beings have more good habits or more bad habits? What do you think? A little louder, please. I heard an awful lot of people say bad habits. You know what? I believe that we have 100 to 1 good habits over bad habits. We remember our good habits because that's what our friends and family point out to us, right? They point out our bad habits. Okay? But we have everything we've ever learned to do, we've turned it into a habit, and then it helps us achieve our goals. We learn to walk, to talk, to ride a bicycle, to drive a car, and we turn it into a habit and it becomes automatic and reflexive. The problem is that once a habit's developed, the biggest threat to habit change is the habit itself. So I have something here I want to read to you. It's called servant or master. And everywhere I say I, what I'm talking about is habits, your habits. I am your constant companion. I am your greatest helper or heaviest burden. I will push you onward or drag you down to failure. I am completely at your command. Half the tasks you do, you might as well turn over to me, and I will do them and correctly. I am easily managed. You must merely be firm with me. Show me just how you want things done, and after a few lessons, I will do them automatically. I am the servant of all great men, alas, of all failures as well. Those who are great, I have made great. Those who are failures, I have made failures. I am not a machine, but I work with all the precision of a machine, plus the intelligence of men. You may run me for profit or run me for ruin. It makes no difference to me. Take me, train me, be firm with me, and I will put the world at your feet. Be lax with me, and I will destroy you. The main thing I want to talk to you about today is the habits that you develop, the habitual way of thinking that you have developed, and how to overcome those. Let me tell you a personal story about conditioning. I wasn't very tall in high school. This is a very polite group. Most groups will snicker at that. Okay? In high school, I was short. Now I am vertically challenged. Well, I loved basketball, and it turned out that I really worked hard at developing my basketball skills, and I got to be the starting point guard for my high school basketball team just down the road in Talmadge, Ohio. But for whatever reason, Coach Rashaki thought he'd have some fun with me and the team at the end of every practice. And we had hundreds of practices, and so at the end of, well, probably about 100 practices, at the end of every practice, he thought it would be funny to throw me the ball and tell the team, if Rex can dunk the basketball, I'll buy the entire team a steak dinner. Well, in 1958, a steak dinner was a big deal, okay? And so everybody's cheering me on. Well, number one, I'm vertically challenged. Number two, see these hands, very small, couldn't grip the basketball. I couldn't touch the string, much less the rim, much less get my hand over it and dunk it. But every day at the end of the practice, I'd run down to the end of the court, jump as high as I could jump, and the whole team would laugh, and practice would be over. Well, I didn't know what kind of an impact that had on me until 27 years later. We buy a new home. It has a basketball court in the driveway, basketball post and backboard and basket in the driveway. And my little son, who was 5 years old at the time, I'd bought him a little green and gold. We lived in Waco, Texas at the time. A green and gold basketball for the Baylor Bears. That was their colors. Little bitty rubber ball, about yay big around. And I'm trying to show him how to play basketball. And he's shooting and he couldn't quite get it high enough. And he noticed, I hadn't, he noticed that you could lower the hoop. It had some bolts and stuff on it, so he said, "Dad, lower the hoop." Oh, good idea, Jeff. So I got the ladder and the tools, and I lowered the hoop down to 8 feet. That's as low as it would go. Put the tools and ladder away, looked at the ball, looked at the hoop, and I had flashback. And I said, I can do this. I picked up the little rubber green and gold ball, and I ran down the driveway, and I went, oh, all right, picked up the ball again, ran down the driveway again, and then I did one of these numbers, you know, Michael Jordan, huh? Okay. And then I did like this. I'm having a ball. I mean, I'm having a good time. And then I hear this little voice say, when is it my turn, Dad? Hang on, Jeff, I got a lot of conditioning to get out here. Okay. Wow. Now, why do I tell you that? Because conditioning is powerful, but we need to find some slam dunks. We need to have a win every day. We need to find a way to win every day. We need to do something that we're proud of, and then at night we need to remember and feel good about what we accomplished. So accomplish something every day, do something you're proud of every day, and then think on it. It's similar to what Dr. K told us last night about smiling. Think about your successes and concentrate on those instead of any rejections that you get or anything like that. So concentrate on what you want to have happen, not on what you don't want to have happen. We've been friends now for 10, 12 minutes. Is it okay if I ask you a personal question? Now, I can't see all of you, so we're going to have to use the honor system here. But I need to see a show of hands. Anyone here ever done anything stupid? Oh, good. I'm not alone. Have you ever done anything stupid, knew at the time you were doing it that it was stupid, and you did it anyway? Okay. Have you ever done anything stupid, knew when you were doing that it was stupid, did it anyway, and said to yourself, "Self, I'll never do that again," and then you did it again? Okay, good. All right. What does that prove? I didn't want to hear stupid. I wanted to hear human. We're human. We are creatures of habit. We tend to do the same thing over and over and over again. And what did someone say of the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. If we want to do something better, we've got to do something different. And if we're going to do something different, it requires that we change. And change can be threatening, but change can also be exciting. Let's just try something together here. Just put down your writing instruments for just a second and clasp your hands like you normally clasp them. Is that comfortable? Sure. Okay. Now, notice which fingers you have between which fingers. Notice which thumb you have on top, because I want you to take it apart, put it back together different with a different thumb on top. And how does that feel? Weird, uncomfortable. If I were to say take them apart and put them back together, would you do it the new improved way or the old-fashioned way? Old-fashioned, yeah. Okay, now just fold your arms like you normally do. Okay, now I have my right hand on top of my left bicep, my left hand under my right bicep. Doesn't matter how you have yours, but now what I want you to do is switch them. A small percentage of you are thinking, what's so hard about that? The vast majority are going, wait a minute. This has got to be a trick. And a couple people in the front row went like this, and they thought they had me fooled. I was watching. Okay. All right. There was a little girl in kindergarten that was just drawing away feverishly. And the teacher walked up to her and said, "What are you drawing?" She said, "I'm drawing a picture of God." And the teacher said, "You can't draw a picture of God. No one knows what God looks like." And the little girl said, "They will in a minute." Did she believe in herself? I think so. When I first got in this business, I heard a poem almost 40 years ago that, and you heard me make one of the points earlier, and it's something that I subscribe to and something that I would encourage you to think about. And it goes like this. "Your task is to build a better world," said God. And I asked, how? This world's such a large, vast place and oh so complicated now. But I'm so small and useless. There is nothing I can do. But God in all his wisdom said, "You just build a better you." And here's the formula for doing that. Whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass. And I wish you all the best in that journey to be the best you. Thank you very much.